Hello, and welcome to GPS for Nonprofits, Giving Day Planning and Strategies, presented by Kimbia. My name is Spencer Whelan, and I'm founder and president at Proclaim Advocates LLC. I've worked on several Kimbia-powered giving events in the past, and together, we've seen the strategies that lead to fundraising success the most for nonprofits. We want to share some of those with you today. As we begin, it's important that we calibrate our expectations. We need to know what a giving event is and what it isn't. For example, a giving event is an exciting and unifying way for a community to come together. It's an opportunity to discover and engage new donors, and it's a great way to convert your existing donor base into the online channel, especially if they've only given through other methods before. On the other hand, there are a couple things that a giving event is not. For example, a giving event is not a quick fundraising fix. It's not going to solve all of your fundraising needs for the year. It's also not something that requires little or no marketing support. In fact, a majority of your planning is going to go into how you market yourself within this giving event structure. Finally, the giving event is not a social media strategy in and of itself. Some organizations fall into the trap of participating in social media only during the event. However, in order to be really effective, you need to be participating before, during, and after, constantly cultivating your digital followers. So let's go over some of the rules of the road. How is an online giving day different than some other forms of digital fundraising? Rule number 1, watch out for slacktivism. What is slacktivism? Well, it's appearing to do good while not really doing very much. Some of you are probably familiar with the more traditional forms of slacktivism, things like the bracelets and the ribbons and any kind of identity apparel that lets people know that you're behind a cause. In the digital world, however, slacktivism has taken on a whole new face. Things like the like button allow people to feel like they're part of your organization and feel like they're doing something, but they're really just clicking a button. It's important to know that slacktivism is not an advocate's fault. It's actually just a detour from an otherwise great digital campaign idea. For example, you could do a great job of reaching some potential donors online, but then you ask them to do something as simple as changing their profile picture or making a status update on Facebook and Twitter, and if that's the extent to which you're asking people to participate, then somebody who was a potential donor gets all of the social benefit of participation without taking the donation action that you really wanted. So really, online slacktivism is just the result of poorly conceived digital campaigns. Campaigns that start with low expectations of their online donor base, or campaigns that have unfocused motivators. Things like the number of likes and shares that a campaign receives instead of dollars to motivate people. And some campaigns suffer from technological friction, which means that the donation platform is so difficult to use, they resort to liking and sharing things instead of giving. So ultimately, slacktivism can be eliminated fairly easily. First, just start by assuming that your donors are more tech savvy than you may think. Never be afraid to ask people to give money online. Online transactions are a part of our daily lives. And if you make it easy to give, you'd be surprised at how many people are willing to give, even if they've never made a donation online before. Next, challenge your audience with some fun and creative donation goals. Using metrics like number of dollars or number of donors motivates people a lot more than number of likes and shares. Finally, make sure to utilize this Kimbia system in as many ways as possible. This is a robust giving platform that allows people to donate when and where they want. Rule number 2. Giving and buying are not the same. Let's start with the psychology of buying. When buying something, it all starts with a little bit of piqued interest, but almost immediately you move on from the interest phase to the information phase. This is where you gather as much detail about the item that you want to buy. Once you're satisfied, you move on to the action, which in this case means pulling out your credit card and making the transaction to purchase the item. Immediately upon receipt, you begin to do a cost-benefit analysis in your head, where you decide, was it worth what I just spent? While it may seem similar, the psychology of giving is actually quite different. For example, in a giving scenario, inspiration and information happen at the same time. People are usually not inspired to give until they learn about the thing that they're giving to in the first place. Next, something really interesting happens. The personal benefit actually precedes the action. What this means is that people feel good about the decision to do something before they actually make a donation. Therefore, Context and reduced friction are even more important. If a person feels the benefit of the donation before they actually make it, then you have to capture them in that moment. Once they have given, a second benefit actually appears. This is the social benefit. This is the feeling that a donor receives when other people find out that they've made a gift, and it's a very powerful motivator. So to summarize, the giving process can actually feel more beneficial than the buying process to the donor. This requires, however, that you understand how they think and what process must go into place to make it easy for them to give. Rule number 3. The Giving Day is all about motivated action. Here is an example of a Giving Day homepage. Notice that at the top of the page, most of the items are dedicated to motivating donors. These items include the primary message that you want donors to receive when they arrive on the site, along with a counter that shows how much time is remaining in the event and how much money has been raised. You can also easily click on the leaderboard from here to find out how other participants are doing. This is all about motivation. Immediately below the motivational items are the action items. Notice that the action items highlighted here take up about 3/4 of the page. These are items like finding an organization quickly and donating to them within one step. Also, you can find and look for specific organizations if you know their name, or if you want to search for them alphabetically. It's all about getting the person to take an action immediately when they're motivated. Let's say that I'm a donor that found an organization on Giving Day and went directly to their page within the Giving Day site. Again, I would see a lot of motivational messages, including the countdown timers, the leaderboard, and the information about the organization I'm giving to. I would also immediately see the action item, which is the form where I can make my donation on the page. But something else appears, an affirmation statement. Remember, a donor feels the benefit before they take the action. This page is designed such that they are affirmed in their decision to make a gift while they are making the gift. This captures them in the moment of inspiration and allows them to feel more secure in their donation. How is this important to you? Well, what it means is that a large portion of your donations are going to come from people who have been motivated prior to the Giving Day. As you saw, the Giving Day website and the giving tools within it are intended to reduce friction as much as possible. It's intended to make donors feel like they're in the right place and make a gift as quickly and efficiently as possible. It's intended to accelerate the giving, and it's intended to provide basic affirmations so that you can capture them in that moment. In other words, the website is where the rubber meets the road. You need to find the motivational fuel that will get people to the site and get them to take action on Giving Day. This does not mean, however, that you won't find completely new donors as a result of the Giving Day itself. In fact, organizations who achieve the fastest number of donations tend to also find the most new donors. How does this work? Well, within minutes of the launch, the leaderboard is immediately going to start to reflect the organizations who are receiving the most donations. Almost without fail, these are the organizations who have done the best job at priming their core advocates, and that early success tends to keep them at the top of the leaderboard. This is due to the bandwagon effect that happens on a Giving Day. As the campaign kicks off and money starts rolling in the door, a lot of buzz starts to build within the community. People who may have never even considered making a donation before, all of a sudden start coming to the site to see what's happening. If your organization is near the top of the list, the likelihood of you getting a brand new donor goes up. On average, Giving Days engage first-time donors at a rate of 20 to 25% of the total giving population. For example, in Southwest Florida, the givingpartner.org website, powered by Kimbia, on Giving Day reported gifts from new or lapsed donors from 60% of the participating organizations. This kind of new donor acquisition success even translates year over year. For example, in their 5th year of Giving Day challenges, the North Texas Giving Day saw 25% new donor adoption. Now, before we dive into some specific strategies you can deploy on Giving Day, please take a moment and watch these videos from New Haven, Connecticut. The Community Foundation of Greater New Haven launched their very first Giving Day on the Kimbia platform. These videos will show you some of the buzz that was created within the community during the giving event, and how the nonprofit participants were able to engage new donors.
I have to say that this was all the talk in our community over that 2-month period. I mean, the buzz around this was great.
On the morning of the challenge, there was a group of us sitting around my desk, staring at the leaderboard in the site, waiting for the clock to strike 8. And once it did, we saw that leaderboard working, we saw the donations coming in, And that was our first victory, to see that the technology was actually working.
The GiveGreater.org program, when it was introduced, I think really gave us all an excitement, something to get behind and get into. Daily we looked at the leaderboard, and in the morning and the afternoon, and even at night when we were at home, we were still texting one another.
What was shocking to me was the numbers of people who, previously, are certainly involved with our organization and our supporters and friends, but who were very, captured by this contest.
So a few of us came in early and we're sitting at our computers, and the second 8 a.m. happened, you start seeing the numbers. Whoever was going to get to 51st was going to get the early bird prize. And basically we just sat here and we watched the numbers change, and it was like watching a horse race, seriously, like watching a horse race. And it was actually probably one of the most exciting 15 minutes of Solar Youth, donation history for sure.
Huge number of gifts right at the outset. Literally in the first hour.
We get about usually between 2,000 and 2,500 gifts a year, and we've had almost 2,000 gifts this week.
And there was a big surge of gifts at the end, too. We had over 5,200 gifts, which is about 2.5 years' worth for us. I was actually at home on New Year's Eve and following this, because I wanted it to hit 5,000, was watching the ticker go up on the site, and it did hit 5,000 mid-afternoon on New Year's Eve, and ended up, as I said, at 5,200 or something.
You received $5,000.
Yes.
How big of an impact does $5,000 have for your nonprofit?
Well, $5,000 plus the money that we raised from our donors. So combined, it's almost $10,000 that we've raised to date.
Congratulations.
And this is money that will go directly into providing health care for people in Fairhaven.
We heard that from over 80% of the nonprofits, they were able to secure new donors and identify new donors through the challenge. So that was really a great victory.
In total, we got about 145 donations. And one thing that's interesting is about 45 of those are brand new donors.
A lot of first-time donors. I would probably say 45% of the campaign.
We ended up 7 in donations and 6 in amount donated. So we were happy about that.
I think it was enormously helpful in terms of our visibility as an organization. We're in our 4th year, so I think even just in terms of name recognition, I think that was enormously helpful. We, multiplied several-fold our database in terms of contacts.
It just truly is a wonderful source and a way to expand our donor base.
For us, it's instrumental to have an online donation capacity. We don't have the ability right now on our site. So it was so important for us is when this Give Greater initiative started, we were just excited. We were excited because it gave us the opportunity to reach people in the community who could support Mary Wade. We posted on Facebook. We got the information out to everyone we could, and it was not just about raising money for us, but it was about increasing visibility for Mary Wade in the community and actually having the board support us in that initiative to get the word out about Mary Wade and why we're worthy of giving, a substantial donation of $50 or more.
For example, board members, friends and family that maybe they didn't feel comfortable reaching out to before. This was something that was very targeted and specific that they reached out to them for.
I think it really helped us to communicate, especially to our board and to our staff and the families of the residents, that we are in the development field and that this is a perfect way for you to join with our mission.
So here we are, several months away from the big giving day, and it can seem confusing on just how to get from where we are now to where we want to be. In this set of slides, we'll discuss how to chart a course that keeps us on track without missing any of the important points along the way. Just like entering in your destination into your GPS, we should always start with where we want to go. This means selecting a goal that is appropriate for your organization. For example, perhaps you just need a finite amount of money to fund a specific project. Maybe you are worried about burning out your existing donors, and you need to acquire 5 to 10% new donors for next year. Or possibly, you're a young organization that is simply trying to gain some visibility within the community. These are all equally valid, but very different goals. and it's important to pick only one and then map your route to get there. With your goal selected, you can then start mapping out the important turning points along the way. We've identified 5 key points that, when navigated successfully, almost always result in a good giving event for your organization. First, we start with the overall campaign strategy. This is the most important point, as it is composed of several other parts, including target audience identification, message and creative development, and your communications plan and timeline. Next, we move on to social media engagement. Remember, it's very important to start cultivating your social media presence very early in your campaign plan. If you wait too long and engage only around Giving Day, you'll likely be talking to a very small audience. Then, we continue on to advocate recruitment. This is where you find your core donors and volunteers that will help you the most at the launch of the Giving Day. Paid digital media is next, and for some organizations it will be very important to promote themselves with paid media and creative elements to ensure they reach new audiences and have a good brand awareness before the event begins. Finally, we'll make a last turn down the final stretch, and we'll need to focus on mobilization strategies and tactics for the big day. First, let's talk about building a great campaign strategy. As we showed, this is the most important phase, as it's composed of 3 foundational elements. Audience identification is the process of profiling your likely donors. What do you know about them currently? And how do you find lookalikes or other potential donors who match the profile? Message development is understanding what kind of messages motivate actions most frequently. In this phase, it's important to find a message that fits your larger brand. We'll discuss the difference between a brand and a message. Finally, we'll discuss communications planning, which is really the tactical plan for the road ahead. For example, have you built a communications calendar and publicly assigned your team with tasks so that everyone is accountable? We'll go into this further. Audience identification can seem like a daunting task, but chances are you already have a good idea of what your target donor looks like. Even if you don't, you almost surely have some good starting data and access to free resources to gain some insights on your audience. Start with your CRM, donor databases, and social networks to look for similarities between your donors and your followers. For example, are all your donations coming from people in a certain age bracket? Or did you acquire a disproportionate number of followers after a certain Facebook post or email blast? You may also want to launch a simple survey to your donors and followers in advance, asking simple questions like, how do you prefer to make charitable donations? Or, what first inspired you to give to our organization? Take what you've learned and start comparing it to free digital analytics tools like Quantcast, Google Analytics, and Alexa. If you find connections within larger audiences, you may start to see opportunities you hadn't considered before. Next, we need to develop the message for our giving event. This is an area where I think a lot of organizations can get confused between the distinctions of a brand, a message, and a campaign. It's important to know that every public organization has a brand. A brand is essentially what most people think of first when they hear your name or see your logo. Also, a brand is not necessarily the same as your mission. For example, Nike doesn't want you to think about them selling a lot of shoes. They want you to think about their brand, which is aligned with something more esoteric, like victory. Finally, your messages and campaigns need to fit underneath a brand identity in such a way that it motivates people to take an action. Using our driving metaphor, let's think of it in the same way as if you were choosing a car. First, you'll base some of your decision on the brand. So for example, a Ford and a Rolls-Royce each elicit very different impressions on the consumer. Each of these have a well-defined brand that sets the tone for everything else they do in their marketing. Next, there is the message. Crafting a message is kind of like choosing the type of vehicle that meets most of your needs and still resonates within a brand. If your brand is, say, Ferrari, then choosing an off-road truck doesn't quite seem to fit. It's better to find a message that is a subset of your brand. For instance, if your organization's brand is centered around an issue like anti-bullying, then a message vehicle highlighting something like after-school programs would be great. Finally, you have the campaign. Like buying a set of tires, this is really where the rubber meets the road. Again, you'll want to select something that is the right fit for your message vehicle and can handle the conditions you'll encounter on your journey. So, to continue the example, if your brand is about anti-bullying and your message is about after-school programs, then perhaps a campaign around getting the most donations between 3:30 and 4:30 p.m. after school would be the best fit. The last step in developing a solid campaign is locking down your communications plan. This is your tactical plan for keeping everyone on task, accountable, and on schedule. You really should develop a detailed communications calendar which charts out when certain messages are going to be delivered publicly. For example, email blasts, press releases, ad schedules, and even tweets and Facebook posts. Be sure to assign everyone roles within this calendar and make sure you have some kind of system to submit and approve content before it's published. Depending on your team's size and experience, this can be managed with advanced online project management tools, or you could simply rely on a good old-fashioned shared team calendar. Finally, we're ready to move on to our next point, which is social media engagement. From here on out, we'll be showing you some tactics, some tools, and some examples from previous giving days that illustrate how you can best prepare for a successful giving day. As discussed before, social media management is something you should be working on every day, before, during, and after the giving event. If you haven't assigned someone on your team to be the primary social media manager for your organization, be sure to do so as soon as possible. This person should know your organization's voice and will be responsible for daily monitoring, posting, and responding to your followers. Have them follow trending topics and even seemingly obscure internet memes. They should be able to find logical connections between them and incorporate your organization's message into this content stream. Also, it will be very important to grow the number of likes you receive on Facebook leading up to the campaign. But please be aware of the changing way in which Facebook handles your posts. Not everyone who likes you will see every post you make. You'll need to encourage more frequent interactions, and sometimes you may even need to pay to have your followers see important messages. There are a ton of tools out there to help you manage your social media presence. Of course, the simplest way to get started is to use the free tools provided by each social media service themselves. Most every social media platform will provide free tools for posting, moderation, and even data analysis. However, most organizations now need to juggle multiple accounts all at the same time, and logging into each system separately can make your social media manager's job much more difficult. You may want to consider using a third-party service like Hootsuite or Buffer to coordinate your communications across multiple platforms. For example, a basic Hootsuite account excels at its monitoring dashboard so you can see everything all at once and on multiple devices. A system like Buffer, on the other hand, focuses on the scheduling of your posts. Obviously, there's a crossover functionality between platforms, and most provide basic free access and even paid plans if you need deeper feature sets, so just find what works best for you. Here are some good examples of social media programs from the Giving Partner Challenge in Sarasota, Florida. Notice how the Beyond the Spectrum Education Center and Therapeutic Clinic turned their entire Facebook page into a temporary billboard for the giving event. They even coordinated with their volunteers and advocates to make similarly themed photos and messages, which were shared regularly on Facebook and Instagram. The Arts and Cultural Alliance of Sarasota County took advantage of the Harlem Shake meme that was popular at the time, and launched their own version of the video on social media. By capitalizing on this short-lived social media trend, they were even able to earn some publicity from broadcast local media channels. Next, let's move on to the important step of advocate recruitment. Digital advocate recruitment is really not all that different from any other kind of engagement with your supporters. You should always start with those who you know the best. They are likely your board members, volunteers, beneficiaries, and your most frequent donors. However, since this is another fundraising event, you may be wary of asking them to give more than they already have. So instead, recruit their involvement in the giving event by asking for something other than money. Here are some examples of valuable non-monetary requests that you could make of your advocates. How about asking your advocates to go out and recruit some Money Minutemen? Say your goal is to win an early bird bonus prize for the most gifts at launch. You could ask your board to go out and recruit a team of 5 people who pledge to give within the first minute of the giving event. Then charge your board members with the responsibility of reminding their recruits to make the gift. Another idea is to create share teams. Find your most active followers on Facebook and get them to pledge to share at least one post per day in the week leading up to the event. There are plenty of free tools that you can use to manage your advocate recruitment programs, and most of you are probably already using them today. Things like Google and Yahoo groups are great ways to keep a small team coordinated with discrete messages. Tools like Evite and Meetup are great if and when you're asking your advocates to do something in person or at a coordinated time. One underused but important tool is Facebook subscriptions. Facebook now filters your posts and typically only about 30 or 40% of your followers see a new message every time you post it. Encourage your followers to subscribe to your content so they see every Facebook post. They can always unsubscribe after the event is over if they feel like it's too much. Here is a great example of an advocate recruitment program during the Amplify Austin event in Austin, Texas. The Special Olympics of Texas recruited their athletes to go to popular shopping centers around town and pass out flyers while dressed like a superhero. This field team of dedicated advocates contributed by recruiting new donors in a very personal, fun, and memorable way. Sometimes, the fastest way to get where you're headed is to take the toll road. Let's look at some ways in which spending a little bit of money on your digital campaign can pay off in big ways. One way to invest in your campaign's success is to develop a primer campaign. This is a digital campaign designed to boost your followers and prepare your audience for a call to action on Giving Day. Start by allocating an online advertising budget that spans 6 to 8 weeks prior to the event. Then, I typically recommend using 40 to 60% of the budget on Facebook to grow the number of likes. Remember, only about a third of your Facebook followers will see a given post during the day, so it's important to have a larger total audience to expand your outreach. Both Facebook and Google have built-in advertising tools that allow anyone to become an advertiser. All you really need is a credit card and someone who can learn and manage the system. Ad networks like AdRoll and Google's remarketing tools are also easy ways to set up sophisticated retargeting ads. If you don't feel comfortable working with these tools, perhaps find a consultant, a volunteer, or work with a pro bono partner agency to help manage this for you. Here is an example of a primer campaign that was set up for Susan G. Komen of Austin. This was the PracticeWhatYouPink.org campaign, and it featured a series of Facebook posts and videos which were all promoted to a larger audience within the Facebook advertising tools. In 1 month, the campaign had generated a 25% increase in the total number of followers on Facebook. In addition, we ran videos and retargeting ads throughout the Google display network. In just over 3 weeks, the campaign's video ads had accounted for over 90% of the all-time YouTube views for the organization. Finally, let's talk about the extremely important step of mobilizing people on the big day. The Giving Day is here, and it's time to cash in on all that time and effort you've invested so far. But one last plan needs to be implemented, your mobilization plan. A very popular choice for participating organizations is to create an in-person or virtual event. In past Giving Days, we've seen organizations who plan time-specific events tend to win the most incentive prizes. For example, you could plan a happy hour after work and set up giving stations around the venue. Be sure to orient your mobilization tactics around the goals and prizes you've already communicated with your advocates. Also, be sure to constantly be updating and celebrating on social media as new gifts and milestones are reached. Finally, you may want to consider holding back a portion of your advertising dollars so that you can promote important posts and tweets during the day. This will reach a much larger audience and increase your chances of bandwagon participation. Making sure you have the right tools for your mobilization teams is really important as well. First, if you're hosting an event, be sure to set up your venue with everything you'll need to handle donations through the platform. The Kimbia Giving Day site is automatically set up to work on multiple devices. Perhaps you should set up laptop stations and have your volunteers walk around with tablets so your attendees can give at the right time. Be sure that the internet and your wireless connections are all working and have a backup plan if something fails. Of course, if you're hosting a virtual event, continue to use social media tools for all your coordination. But perhaps it's worth looking into something extra, like a text message or automated calling system that sends custom messages to everyone on your list and reminds them to give sometime during the day. Here are some great examples of Giving Day mobilization programs. One organization knew that almost all of their donors had never given online before, so they produced a direct mail piece where they attached a packet of instant coffee to a card encouraging their donors to wake up early and follow the card's instructions for getting online and making a donation. During the Amplify Austin Giving Day, many organizations set up happy hours and in-store events around the city to promote the time slot where they wanted to concentrate their giving. For example, Austin Soundwaves is a music program that set up a concert at the Whole Foods flagship store and asked for donations during the final 2 hours of the Giving Day. If you've made it this far, you should hopefully have some really good ideas about how to organize your own Giving Day strategies. We are all looking forward to seeing the fun and creative campaigns you develop over the next few months. Again, I'm Spencer Whelan, and on behalf of myself, Kimbia, and Proclaim Advocates, thank you so much for your time and attention. We are truly honored to be joining you on this journey.